I hope they let dudes into the WNBA because it would be really nice to see more dunking. I'm just kidding. But the trans conversation has become a big conversation in the WNBA. It was kind of quiet for a while after the election, and it wasn't gone, but it was quieter. And all of a sudden, it's become a big thing again. And so the question is, why is this happening in the WNBA? But also, and more importantly, as a Christian, as a young Christian, how should you think about it and approach it so that you have a biblical mindset as well as the ability to minister to the world? Let's discuss. We have this coach from the Lynx, Cheryl Reeves, who wore a Trans Kids Belong shirt under her blazer, which many people believe she did because Sophie Cunningham made some comments about keeping women's sports for biological women in order to protect girls. Now, most people are on board with protecting girls until it comes to the trans conversation, and for some reason, they absolutely lose their minds.
Well, then everyone loses their minds.
And so this is what's going on right now. Let's check out this.
These former NBA players say they're going to join the Women's League. But why and how? Well, they're actually doing it in protest of the WNBA's rules, which say that all players must be women without defining women.
I'm transgender. I identify as sometimes identifying as a woman for
I identify as sometimes identifying as a woman.
For purposes of basketball.
For purposes
basketball.
of basketball.
So I'll be declaring for the WNBA draft in 2027 as well.
Based on the current guidelines, I can and am officially declaring my eligibility for the upcoming WNBA draft in May 2027.
So obviously these guys aren't being serious, right? They are mocking the rules. They're trying to protect women, which I think is fantastic. But not everybody thinks it's fantastic when men make a stance for women, but they want men to make it. You'll see.
People playing in the league. It's because the new WNBA collective bargaining agreement signed early this year says only players who are women are eligible to play in the WNBA. But it doesn't define women or spell out how eligibility for transgender players is determined.
These players are stepping up to make a political statement. Unfortunately, frankly, unsurprising that some cis men want to insert themselves in a way that's inappropriate into women's sports. And I think it's just
Not cis men. Not cis men. Not cis men. The heck is cis men? I hate that. I hate that phrase. Not cis men. Bro, how is it inappropriate for men to make a stand for women? You want, no toxic masculinity, no toxic, and then men make a stand for women and trying to, speak out for them and protect them. Cis men are talking about inappropriate. This is the same argument that people make when they're like, "Oh, you can't talk about women's rights because you're not a woman." That is the stupidest argument I've ever heard. So you're saying if I'm not the thing that we're fighting for or trying to protect, then I can't have an opinion or speak out about what is right and what is wrong? That's like saying the white people back in the day who spoke out against slavery shouldn't have spoke out against slavery because they weren't black. Well, you don't get a say because you're not black. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You're not a woman, so you shouldn't get a say. So I can't protect somebody if I'm out on the street and I see somebody who is Asian getting beat up. Do I not go and help them? Well, you're not Asian. Why are you even engaging in this? Because it's the right thing to do. Because I have the ability to, because I have a voice to. Oh, dude, no, get out of here.
just another way that women's sports gets attacked when it's been thriving and doing so well, especially the WNBA.
Who's attacking it? They're attacking it by saying we want to keep women's sports for actual women, biological women. That's the attack? I think you need to get your brain checked, bruh. That is a ridiculous statement. So anyways, this keeps
context,
going
there
on.
aren't any transgender women playing in the WNBA now. The two declarations came after WNBA player Sophie Cunningham spoke out against transgender participation in women's sports. She said girls in sports shouldn't have to compete against what she called biological men in a...
Okay, so she says it. She still gets attacked. So when the person who is the thing that should only be able to speak out for the thing, she can't speak out for the thing. And then when the men go to support her, they're like, you can't support it.
in a recent interview with ESPN.
If anybody is taking these talking points as legit or believing they're protecting young girls in sports, I just have to ask, are you serious?
Why she...
I am serious. I am serious. Listen, I have a daughter who plays sports. Currently, she plays in flag football, and there's all boys on her team. She's currently at an age where she's more athletic than most, right? So she's actually able to play with the boys, dominate the boys, etc. There is going to be a point in time when they are going to surpass her in speed and strength and all. It's going to happen. It just is, right? I am not going to want boys, if she plays for an all-girls team, a boy to come out on there. They're going to be faster. They're going to be stronger. And if they collide, hit, whatever, it is going to be more devastating for her than it is for that boy. So yes, I'm serious.
Yes.
Why she decided to make this an issue and start to attack trans individuals is a very curious thing. All of us who are fans...
I like how when they say attack, all she said was, let's just keep this for women. Can we just keep it for biological women? Can we just keep this for people with ovaries? Can we just keep this for people that, can bear children? Can we just keep this for people who have a similar muscular and bone structure? People who have a similar athletic capability that aren't... Can we just keep it for them? Because I thought we were supposed to protect women, and I thought we were supposed to protect women's rights, but all of a sudden now women don't
Us
get...
who are fans out there of the WNBA, the NBA, of any sports that are out there, are seeing through what this is, which is, it's just another distraction.
The WNBA...
It's not another distraction. You're a joke. That's what it is. That guy's a joke. That Megan chick who was just talking, she's a joke. This whole idea makes zero sense whatsoever. And Sophie Cunningham is just calling out common sense thinking about biology, which follow the science, and now all of a sudden they want to have an issue with it. So what should a Christian's approach? You can see I'm kind of fired up about this. I am fired up about this. And it's not just because it's... Here's the thing. You can be for something without attacking something else. I can be for women without attacking trans people. That's a possibility. But the problem is they want to say that if you are not for me, then you are my enemy. And when you create polarizing statements like that, it doesn't allow for unity. It doesn't allow for, maybe not even unity, just tolerance. The tolerance of different ideas. Okay? Now, what should Christians' response to the trans conversation, trans in the WNBA, what should their conversation be? The calling of every Christian is to be like Christ. And I love the description that is painted of Jesus in John 1:14. It says that he was full of grace and truth. His grace calls everyone to his love. His grace calls, his truth brings freedom. But as Romans 1:25 says, people have a habit of exchanging truth for a lie. All truth is God's truth, right? So sex and sexuality, the truth that is in that, is God's truth. So what truth do we see about this? We see that in the beginning, God created male and female. Now, it wasn't until very recent, like extremely recently, that they differentiated between sex and gender. It used, even when I was in school, which wasn't that long ago, sex and gender were synonyms. What sex are you? What gender are you? Like it wasn't until later that they started differentiating between sex and gender. So God made male and female sexes, genders, and yes, those are dependent on what body parts you have. They are dependent on your physical makeup. And if it wasn't dependent on that, the bigger question is, why would you change yourself physically in order to match what you say you are? Now, why does it matter if we trade truth for a lie? Well, what happens when we believe a lie? In Romans 1:21, it says, "For although they knew God, they didn't glorify him as God, nor thank him, but their thinking became futile." It became darkened. And their hearts and their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools. When we reject God's truth, we look smart, we say smart things, but we actually end up dumb. In Romans 1:28, it says, "Just as they did not think it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, so God gave them over to a depraved mind, so they do what ought not be done." When we reject God's truth and accept lies, it brings depravity, it brings evil, it brings just the breakdown of society. This is why it matters. There's a girl, her name is Chloe Cole, and she was told by doctors, "Hey, you're trans." And she believed a lie. And she was irreparably changed and mutilated in her body. And now she speaks out against allowing kids who are underage to have trans surgery because she experienced what happens when you believe the lie. You can go follow her on Instagram. We think we're loving people by not telling them the truth, but you're not. You're hurting people. So Christians are called to be like Jesus. We are called to love everyone. No one should be the object of our ridicule or being made fun of. And so we call them to truth. We love them. We speak lovingly to them. But we are not going to believe a lie, and we are not going to perpetuate the lie. We will tell them the truth in love. You don't have to agree with people to love people. And especially in this case, you can't. We will fight policies, but we will love people. And as we love people, we should love them enough to tell them the truth. So hopefully this gives you some insight. If you have questions, feel free to drop it in the comments. If this helped you, share it with somebody. God has freedom for every person who's dealing with all manner of things that we struggle with. God loves you. My name is Joshua Knudsen. My goal is to help you love God passionately and live your faith boldly. This is 14 Revolution. Go check out our app. We have it. It's called YCU. If you go to ycu.app, you can sign up there, get a 14-day free trial, and you can either on Android use that website, or on the Apple market, you can go and download the YCU app and sign in and get 14 days free. Go check it out.